sentience, but it's being suppressed. But a large part of the book covers alchemy, specifically transforming base metals into gold, curing illness, granting immortality, and achieving enlightenment. But like the original Emerald Tablet, it was all allegory and symbolism, subject to many different interpretations. There are no clear instructions. The tablet doesn't tell us what kind of materials we need to create the Philosopher's Stone. And even if they did, they don't tell us the book suddenly appeared online. It was called The Book of Aquarius. And this is what was written on the first page. The age of secrets is over. There's no need for mystical language or metaphor. This book contains no hidden meaning or codes. Everything is stated plainly and directly.
So what the hell does this mean?
Well, this means that anyone who wanted to create the Philosopher's Stone now has a recipe to follow, just like a cookbook.
Book of Aquarius. I haven't heard of, well, I heard of it, but I haven't seen it. So it's like, I'm gonna go down that rabbit hole and check out what the Book of Aquarius is and read it online. Actually get the audio version so we can hear it and understand it together. Y'all want to go down that rabbit hole with me, let me know, and we're going to get into the Book of Aquarius. Also, I want to know what you think about Thoth. I know probably new to some of you probably heard the name before, but nevertheless, this name has been popping up from time as wisdom that these people who was before Jesus Christ and this similar teachings that's been passed down. So it's kind of interesting to know, like, as far as Atlantis is a real place here in they talk about Tartaria was another civilization after Atlantis, and we'll get into other things as far as, you know, the Stone Age. Now we're in the digital age, you can call it, the new millennium, 20th century, and it just goes back in time. We'll go into the ages. But yeah, I definitely want to know what y'all think about this. Is it accurate or is it make-believe, or what do you guys feel about this Emerald Tablet? He sent me an invite earlier, Billy Carson. He talks about this stuff a lot. He's on YouTube a lot. We on Instagram, but he did a live earlier. I checked him out for a little bit, and I'll run back some of his stuff. He real intelligent when it comes to this stuff, esoteric knowledge and wisdom, and ancient occult, Egyptian knowledge and stuff like that. But yeah, I'll show y'all a little bit of him, Billy Carson, and other people that brought me down this path. But I just think it's interesting that, you know,
and patience could do. And what's most amazing about the recipe for the Philosopher's Stone is that it's only one ingredient, and we all have it in us.
Oh, in us? What are you talking about? Well, what's the one ingredient we need to live forever?
Well, the one ingredient is,
What?
urine.
Oh, come on!
You can sell this $5 spatula on Amazon and compete with hundreds of other spatula sellers.
Some of the greatest minds in history have tried to find the secret of the Philosopher's Stone. When the Book of Aquarius appeared on an online forum in 2011, the anonymous author encouraged everyone to spread it online for free. He wrote, "The purpose of this book is to release one particular secret, which has been kept hidden for the last 12,000 years. The Book of Aquarius contained easy-to-understand, step-by-step instructions for how to create the Philosopher's Stone, which, if created properly, would grant you eternal life." The author of the book said that all the old alchemy texts using confusing metaphors and symbolism was actually done intentionally. This was an early disinformation campaign, a way to decipher the text. When the Book of Aquarius was posted to an online forum, it was ridiculed at first. There was no way you could achieve immortality with pee. But throughout history, alchemists actually used urine all the time. The 16th century Swiss alchemist Paracelsus claimed that life essence was in blood, in hair, sweat, and human waste. The Book of Aquarius says that the Philosopher's Stone is this life energy, concentrated and purified. This is the same energy you take in when you breathe, when you eat and drink. It's the energy that powers all forms of life, so it makes sense that it would be found in urine. Ancient knew this is.
And Aaron was talking about this as far as how to reach that pureness, that solid energy. And yeah, if y'all want to hear that discussion, I'm gonna try to get him on board, or we could talk about it. And similar to this lane, this animal, he'll have a better insight, and hopefully this can help him out as well. As far as we were talking about.
Well, remember earlier I mentioned he called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. It had a lot of famous men. Arthur Conan Doyle. Dawn is a reference to the only ingredient used to make.
Have got to be me.
Nope. But now secrecy were useless. The Book of Aquarius gave specific step-by-step instructions on how to store, boil, distill, ferment, and purify urine. It would take months or even years, but eventually a stone would start to form. It was all in the book. How to do it, what the results should look like, what the process smells like.
Nobody really tried to make this crazy thing, did they?
They sure did. Shortly after the Book of Aquarius was published, the anonymous author set up a website at thebookofaquarius.com. There you could, of course, download a free copy of the book, but also participate in a forum where people would try to follow the instructions of the book as closely as possible and create their own Philosopher's Stone. And although the stone only required the book as but also participate in a forum where people would try to follow the instructions of the book as closely as possible and create their own Philosopher's Stone. And although the stone only required one ingredient,
Tinkle.
right, the process for extracting your life energy required patience. Even if you did everything correctly, it would take between 3 and 8 years to finish the work and make a stone. And that's assuming you kept your materials free from contamination, controlled the temperature, and used the correct equipment at the correct phase of production. A lot could go wrong, yet a small but determined group of people were giving it their best shot. The recipe for creating the stone had 2 major parts. First, you had to repeatedly distill the urine and continually remove the densest particles. Next, you do it all again, but this time remove the light particles, which would be a form of salt. This first part would ideally take 3 months, but could often take up to a year. In the second part of the recipe, you combine the salt with the distilled urine and put it on a low and continuous heat. You do that for over a year until it putrefies and turns black. In the next part of the recipe...
Wait.
What?
Can you not call it a recipe, please? It makes it sound like you're supposed to eat it.
Well...
What? What?
When you're done with the process, you do eat it.
Ugh, I'm gonna be sick.
What's your problem? You're swimming in half the recipe right now.
It's not the same thing. I got bubbles. I got filters. Besides, I only tinkle in the back of the bowl.
I don't think it matters.
It matters.
Anyway, you keep heating the black stuff, and eventually it turns the heat a little bit more, and the stone turns red, and then pretty much ready to go. The book even gives you some guidance.
I can't.
On the Book of Aquarius forums, a community of amateur alchemists emerged. Even the author of the book was an active tips and strategies. They would discuss how different foods affected their long enough for at least one person to succeed.
Did somebody actually get this crazy thing to work?
Well, nobody knows, because suddenly and without warning, the book. We covered a lot today. The Egyptian god Thoth, Atlantis, the Trismegistus, Apollonius of Tyana, the Book of Aquarius, and how they all connect to the Philosopher's Stone. But how much of the story is true? Well, a lot of it is. But let's look at the indeed a text that's at least 12. One of the most important. Isaac Newton and many others were fascinated with it and spent large parts of their life trying to decode it. But the Emerald Tablets, plural, that's a different story. All the stuff about Atlantis comes from the book The Emerald Tablets of Thoth, the Atlantean by Dr. Maurice Doreal. And a lot of that information is part of Doreal's religion, the Brotherhood of the White Temple. The Brotherhood really does exist. You could find tons of articles and YouTube videos from people who believe that Doreal was chosen to deliver his message to the world.
It is a butt coming.
There is. Now look, maybe Doreal really did discover the tablets in Egypt and translate them. Maybe he really is helping people on their journey to the light of truth, as the Brotherhood claims.
Well, your tone is drifting into sarcasm territory.
But before you join this cult religion, there are a few things you should know about Dr. Maurice Doreal. Dr. Doreal's real name was Claude Doggins, and he wasn't a doctor of anything. He never graduated high school, which is amazing because he claimed that he was able to read and write as soon as he was born and was doing advanced mathematics before the age of 1.
Yet no interest in getting a GED, huh?
Yeah, I guess not. So no record of him receiving a doctorate, but there is record of him driving a cab.
He drove a cab in Egypt?
Oh, he never went to Egypt.
Yeah, but
His passport verifies this. When he was confronted about the passport problem, Doreal, aka Doggins, said, well, they weren't physical travels, they were astral travels. Doggins wrote a lot about astral travels and other paranormal phenomena. He wrote about UFOs, alien attacks, the nuclear war that he predicted would happen in 1956. And he wrote about human serpent hybrids living in the Gobi Desert.
lizard people!
Yep.
Hey, did you know you could buy a lizard people mug from the Wi-Fi store? Use promo
No,
code...
no merch plugs now.
Sorry. Force a habit.
Now, his followers will say all the things that Doreal wrote were true. The problem is, his stories were lifted from prominent science fiction writer, match almost word for word passages from the Necronomicon by H.P. Lovecraft.
Ooh, that was one of the campfire stories I would read at Camp Greenfoot.
Camp Greenfoot.
Oh yeah, I was a counselor there in the 80s. Kids loved me.
Lovecraft is kind of dark for kids, no?
I didn't think so at the time, but I'm not gonna lie. Some of those kids, they grew up pretty weird.
Anyway, Doreal also lifted ideas from the Shaver Mysteries, which were popular in the sci-fi pulp magazine Amazing Stories. He even wrote into the magazine, and Doreal made all kinds of other wild claims, as most cult leaders do, but there are too many to list here.
So he was a fraud?
Well, I'm not saying that, but his wife did.
What?
At a public event, his wife called him out for lying and cheating in front of a whole group of disciples.
Hell hath no fury, eh?
Yeah, the quote-unquote cult leader divorce made newspaper headlines at the time. Now, even with all this information, Doreal still has plenty of believers, and the Brotherhood still sells all of his books on their website. So the story of the original Emerald Tablet, that story is true. The actual tablet has never been found, but the text has been around for at least 1,200 years. That's confirmed. The Emerald Tablets by Doreal, well, you can make your own decision, but to me it sounds like yet another cult leader passing off science fiction as his own writing to take advantage of people for profit.
Nice work if you can get it.
Sure is. Look at G. You censored me.
Of course I did. Their lawyers watch this show, you moron.
Fair enough. So what about the Book of Aquarius? That one also sounds like science fiction, but turns out it's real.
Tesla is finished. Elon has failed. That is tech expert Jeff Brown.
Ever since the Book of Aquarius website was taken down, there's not much information about what happened to the people who were trying to create.
Nah, that's crazy because, like, I didn't even think all this stuff that's going on as far as alchemy. Well, I know about certain parts of alchemy or whatever, but the way they doing that in that stone, and you know that's the process. I don't really know what they're trying to achieve with that. I'm gonna have to look into it, but that stuff get crazy, and I can see like how they end up looking crazy and being crazy, digging into all this stuff and having all this type of information, and not knowing what to do with it.
their own stones. One theory is that some people were actually successful, so either they had the site taken down or
The Illuminati.
right, some group of And even though you can still download the book from the Internet Archives, you can't view the messages on the message board. Those have been scrubbed by somebody. Another theory is that the Book of Aquarius was a hoax. But if that's true, the book is 165 pages, and the author goes into meticulous detail, and he quotes from 49 different alchemical texts, ranging from the 20th century all the way back to the 11th century. Many of these texts are pretty obscure and hard to find, and no one has ever come forward to take credit for writing it. The Book of Aquarius is probably not a hoax, but a book written by a passionate individual who honestly believes they're sharing the secret to creating a philosopher's stone.
With Tinkle?
Yep. There's actually a well-documented case of an alchemist attempting to create the philosopher's stone from urine. In 1669, German alchemist Henning Brandt dedicated years of his life to creating the stone. He was convinced urine was the way to do it, and he did everything that the Book of Aquarius says to do. Now, after boiling and distilling 1,500 gallons of his essence, he ended up with a white, waxy substance that actually glowed in the dark.
He made the stone?
No, he accidentally discovered phosphorus. Now, to a 17th century alchemist, this must have been amazing. Here was a substance that was the product of the human body that was glowing with a life force. Now, Braun kept the recipe secret while he tried to create gold, but when he couldn't get that to work, he sold the recipe to another alchemist. As for living forever, well, it's been reported that Henning Braun did die, but nobody knows exactly when. Now, of course, legend says that he faked his death and, like Nicholas Flamel, is still alive today. Now, that makes sense to me. If I created the Philosopher's Stone, I don't think I'd ever tell. Would you? Now, if you want to try creating it, the Book of Aquarius is still available online and linked below, but I don't recommend it. Boiling urine smells awful, but that's a small price to pay for immortality.
Wait. How do you know it smells awful?
Don't worry about that. Now, if you do decide to try and create the Philosopher's Stone, do me a favor. Email me in about 600 years, and we'll both have a good laugh.
No!
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. My name is AJ. There's Hecklefish, and this has been the Y-Files. If you had fun or learned anything, do us a
Oh, they learned some things today.
I agree.
I think you owed them an apology, actually.
Now, like most topics we cover on the story that you'd like to see or learn more about, go to theyfiles.com/tips. And special thanks to our patrons who make this channel possible. You guys are amazing. And if you'd like to support the channel and join this incredible community, consider becoming a member on Patreon or join our Discord server or grab something from the Y-File store.
Oh, yeah, you could grab yourself a Camp Greenfoot t-shirt right now.
Already? That was fast.
Hey, capitalism moves quick, Bally.
That's going to do it. Until next time, be safe, be kind, and know that you are appreciated. I got to take a leak. You get your podcasts. Now, if you need more Y-Files in your life, this episode of the Y-Files is brought to you by 1989. Doug Muchler reported for duty. He was a counterintelligence officer stationed at Fort Richardson, just in terrorism. So his first stop was the map room. He needed to get the lay of the land. Doug grew up in Ohio, so learning about the rugged terrain and wilderness of Alaska would take a lot of studying. Alaska is a big place, almost 700,000 square miles, twice the size of Texas. Doug spread out a few maps across the giant maps. They showed mountain ranges, rivers, lakes, cities, old mining towns, the typical stuff. But then something caught his eye. On a map of Denali National Park, there was an area no bigger than his thumb that was whited out. Doug grabbed a magnifying glass. There were no features. About 60 miles west of Mount McKinley was a small zone labeled, "This area not surveyed to date." Doug thought this was odd. The entire state of Alaska was definitely surveyed, every inch of it. How could this tiny patch be not surveyed? He set the question aside. He was a chief warrant officer in military intelligence. He figured if he needed to know, he'd know. Still, something about that location haunted him. And 3 years later, he'd find out why. Where could he be?
Yeah, hidden in your closet. Need the code. It's an emergency.
How did you know I had a safe?
Oh, my sweet summer human. You're as predictable as the jokes in these commercials. Now give me the code, chop chop. I need to borrow some bread.
Some bread?
It means money.
I know what it means. Why do you need the money?
Gertie and I have fallen on hard times.
How? I give you a free house, free food, free car. Oh, by the way, Gertie can't borrow the truck anymore. I don't even know what that stain is.
Oh, my baby spits. She can't help it.
That's really too... Look, I said I don't want to know.
Oh, come on. You rub a little club soda on it, it comes right out. Hey, look, if you'll owe me some money, we won't need your truck.
Okay. What's the money for this time?
Gertie and I are starting a new business. Camel toe. Okay. Here's our commercial. Ready? Is your car broken down? Do you... Camel toe you it?
Didn't you already start that rideshare business?
Oh, humped. Yeah. That didn't work. Salacious.
Salacious?
It means inappropriate.
I know what it... Look, I'm not doing that bit again. Will you just call PDS Debt?
Oh, my. Did you just camel toe your vehicle into today's sponsor?
I sure did. PDS Debt is a top-rated company on Google and have an A. They have for anyone struggling with debt payments, credit cards, personal loans, collection.
But what I could do is help you get your credit together. Now that I do know. PDS, something new. I was thinking it was something like a loan type of thing, but I don't know. And then with that thought situation, as far as what they were seeking, eternal life, I guess they always went about it different ways, but with the alchemy and stuff like that, these different mixes, I don't think I would have went that route. I don't think I would have been interested in that. But it's like, I guess it did work for certain people, even maybe Buddha. But that makes me think like maybe they had different ways of enlightenment. They all had different ways of achieving it. So I heard about this stone before, but I didn't know who all was involved with it or what. And I heard about that tablet too. So I guess the tablet was telling them how to do this stuff, and that's why they kept taking it and moving in different places to keep it from different people and the different magical things they was doing with it, I guess. Also, the power
Someone with over $10,000 or more in eligible debt qualifies.
Well, it's terrible.
Well, there's no minimum credit score required. Bad and fair credit is accepted. You get thousands in interest and fees and pay off your debt in a fraction of the time. PDS is giving our qualified viewers a free debt analysis just for completing the 30-second online assessment at www.pds so you can stop trying.
This,
You mean cat burglar?
yeah.
It was late 1992, and Doug Muchler was killing time with a few dozen off-duty soldiers. Someone shushed the group and turned up the TV. The local news was running a story about an underground nuclear detonation in China. It was so powerful that it sent shockwaves in the Earth's crust all the way to Alaska. But that wasn't the story. When seismologists analyzed the data, they saw the cross-section of a huge object about 100 feet below the surface in central Alaska. It was a pyramid, a huge pyramid, bigger than the Great Pyramid of Giza, 550 feet tall from the top to the base. The news showed the pyramid's location on a map. Doug wasn't sure, but he could swear it was right in the middle of the location marked, "This area not surveyed to date." He ran to the map room. He was right. Next stop, his quarters. He set his VCR to record the 11 o'clock news. He needed to be sure. The news junkies he knew, military intelligence officials, Doug went to the local news station. The station manager said there was no such story and had no idea what Doug was talking about. They returned to his office. Doug stood in the lobby for a minute, confused. Not only did he see the news story, but almost 40 other soldiers did too. The station manager's strange behavior made Doug feel that something wasn't right.
Had a men in black stop by.
Well, that's what Doug thought. But this visit was off the books. He had no authority here. As a voice nervously gestured for Doug to come over, so he did. The younger man was clearly rattled. The story was true.
Look, I'm not supposed to say anything. I could get fired for this, but this just isn't sitting right with me.
Doug acted like he wasn't sure what the kid was talking about, but he was pretty sure what he was talking about.
Last night's sick. Next thing I know, clock line up, and all the tapes of the story were confiscated. It's all gone.
Doug asked why, although again, he knew the answer. He just wanted to hear this kid say it.
The news director said we had to kill the story because it involved a Chinese nuclear test. It was a matter of national security. We were.
The kid begged Doug to keep him out of it. And Doug agreed. He also knew he shouldn't out of the bus was even more shocking. After 6 hours in the dark, the bright white Alaskan landscape was overpowering. Marty lifted his collar, shielded his eyes, and walked with his colleagues. Once his eyes adjusted, Marty became confused. There was nothing here. Ice, snow, mountains, that's it. Then he heard a shout from up ahead. Two men in uniform stood next to what looked like a concrete shed in the middle of nowhere. Marty would need answers soon. The cold wind was taking the fun out of this adventure. The group shuffled into the shed. The officers came in last and closed the door. In unison, everyone sighed in relief. One of the officers told the group to grab the rail and hold on. Platform began dropping. Now Marty understood. The shed was just an entrance to this elevator shaft. As the elevator descended, the temperature warmed a bit. It was still cold enough to see his breath, but at least they were spared from the biting wind. And after daydreaming a bit, Marty realized they'd been going down for a long time. The elevator finally stopped. The officer opened the gate and gestured for everyone to step out. Marty followed the group out into the hallway. It looked like every military office building he'd ever been in. The gray concrete floor and walls painted green beige, the constant buzzing of overhead fluorescent lights, all too familiar. The group started moving again. Marty felt like he was on a museum tour, just following the crowd. They passed plenty of doors, so this place must be bigger than it looked. The doors had no names, only numbers. Clean, simple, efficient. Definitely military. The officer up front raised his voice a bit so everyone could hear. Before they started their 4-week orientation, they would get to see the project. Finally, Marty thought. Judging by the murmurs in the group, he wasn't the only one becoming impatient. After making a few turns here and there, they reached the end of the hallway. They were standing in front of a huge steel door. It had to be 15 feet high, wide enough to draw a car through. The officer grabbed a red phone receiver off the wall and spoke into it. Marty couldn't hear, but he chuckled to himself as he imagined the officer saying, "Open sesame." From somewhere, there was the sound of metal on metal, and the door began to slowly swing open. Not only was the door tall and wide, it had to be a foot thick. What could be in here that required security measures like this? Was it nukes? Marty hoped it wasn't nukes. They walked through the door into a giant cavern. Then Marty saw it, and everything made sense. The blacked out windows, the secrecy, the security. The officer proudly announced, "Gentlemen, welcome to the Dark Pyramid." In the spring of '78, Lee Pearson was at the Unalakleet Airport trading war stories with a fellow vet. Lee retired and became a teacher, but his new friend, a helicopter pilot, was still in the service. The pilot could tell Lee was missing the excitement of the old days, so he made him an offer. He was making a quick run into the infamous Alaska Triangle.
Lee, I got something that will get your blood pumping. We're taking some important equipment out to a secret base near Denali. You know Mount McKinley? We'll be in and out in 4 hours. You want to tag along?
He said absolutely. They hopped in the helicopter and started flying due east. After just under 2 hours of flight time, the pilot gave Lee a heads up.
Okay, we're just about 5 miles out. Things are about to get weird. Our instruments are going to go crazy. You're going to hear all kinds of alarms. Don't panic. And we'll go VFR the rest of the way, and we'll be fine.
VFR?
Visual flight rules. Basically, you turn off autopilot, keep the ground in sight, and keep your eyes open for obstacles.
Got it.
Then the helicopter's electronics went haywire. The radar screen went out. The compass needle was spinning like a fan. Lee was visibly nervous. Then all the power in the helicopter, the instruments, lights, everything went black. But The helicopter kept flying. A few minutes later, it touched down. Within seconds, a ground crew was refueling them, with the engine running and the rotor spinning. Lee looked around. There were a couple of small guardhouses with towers. He saw 2 or 3 deposit huts. Boxes of equipment were piled here. Razor wire was everywhere. Lee looked up. Overhead, a C-130 was flying tight circles over the area. Then 6 men in black uniforms start yanking crates of cargo. Lee, being a military man himself, notices the uniforms have no insignia, no unit patches, no rank, no name tape, no identification of any kind. There are men around the perimeter of the landing zone. They're heavily armed and aiming at the helicopter. Lee looks behind them. There's a Jeep parked just a few yards away. On top of it is a .50 caliber machine gun. It's loaded, manned, and aimed right at them. Lee glances nervously at the pilot, who gives him a look that says, "Relax, this is normal." In 3, maybe 4 minutes, they're airborne and headed west, back to the airport. Once they get about 5 miles from the site, all the instruments come back on and everything is working perfectly. Lee asks the pilot, "What the hell was that?" The pilot looks at Lee, taps his headset, and holds his finger in front of his mouth.
Yeah, they'd be listening to the radio.
Yep. At a small bar near the airport, the 3 men sit at a quiet table in the back. A waitress drops off a round of beers. Lee grabs one, takes a sip, and says, "Okay, let's hear it."
That place is more secret than the Manhattan Project. Nobody's supposed to know it even exists. Deep underground is a giant pyramid made of black stone. They think it's stone anyway.
Lee asks who would build a giant pyramid underground and why.
All they know is that it's thousands of years old. They've had techs and engineers working there since the 50s. It's a power generator of some kind. And this thing puts out a lot of juice.
This sounded crazy to Lee. He asked how much power does the pyramid generate? The pilot said, enough to power the whole country. Pyramids as power plants. Sounds like science fiction, but if made of the right materials, it could possibly work. I have an entire episode on how the Great Pyramid of Giza could have created energy. And there's scientific evidence that supports this theory.
Pyramid power, link below.
Marty Johnson was very specific about the site and the technology. He said the pyramid was He said the pyramid is 550 feet tall, with the base 700 feet below the surface. The angles of the pyramid were 48 degrees, not 45. I don't know why this is important, but Marty said it was. There were enclosed control rooms at each corner. The control rooms measured the energy flowing through the pyramid. The purpose of the project, energy distribution. If they ever got this to work, we don't know. But Marty Johnson's son said his father built a replica of the pyramid made out of aluminum. He ran a small amount of voltage through the pyramid, and that energy was then magnified. This mini pyramid produced more than enough electricity to power their entire house and farm. It's been theorized that the pyramids in Alaska, Egypt, Indonesia, and other places formed an ancient energy grid. They pulled electricity out of the 0-point field and transmitted it around the planet, maybe even around the solar system.
Free energy cover-up, link below.
Right. I have an entire episode about inventors who discovered ways to pull energy from the quantum field that exists everywhere.
And what happened to those inventors?
All died of mysterious causes.
Uh-huh.
So, is the Dark Pyramid an energy device? We don't know. We have to find it first. And some people think they have.
Paul tried everything to pass his prop firm challenge. He blew account after account, just like most traders, until he finally let us take over the trading for him. Now, we trade for Paul, pass and manage his funded account, and he just collects payouts while we handle everything. Paul literally said it best. He said, "I don't touch the charts anymore. I just check the payouts. I finally feel free." And this is a full service prop firm management. We only get paid after you do. You paid $500 to fail your prop challenge, and we get traders paid out. And they don't owe us a single penny until the money hits their account. So let that sink in. We cover 20% of your challenge costs up front. We pass it for you, and you only pay us after you're funded and paid. Risk-free, hassle-free, 100% results-driven. Now, most traders are stuck in the same cycle. They buy challenge after challenge, they blow their accounts, and convince themselves they'll get it right next time. But the truth, success in prop trading doesn't come from doing it all yourself. It comes from letting a proven team handle it for you and only paying once you see the results. And that's what Algo Plus does. We've helped traders like Mike, who got his first ever payout, $14,247, after failing 6 times with other services. Chris, who joined with a $50K Apex account and banked $4,900 in under 2 weeks. Michael, who was skeptical until his first $11,200 payout hit his bank account, and over 400 plus others, all showing verified results on Trustpilot and MyFXBook. And one of our AI managed accounts has averaged 4.2% per month for over 3 years, with less than 1.2% drawdown. Another has consistently delivered 5.6% returns monthly with even less risk. Now, this isn't hype, it's math, it's systems, it's repeatable. And here's the kicker. You don't pay us a penny unless you get paid first. No hidden fees, no management charges, no upfront cost at all. And that's why traders trust us. We put skin in the game because we know what we're doing works. So here's what's next. Click the link that you see on the screen. You'll get all the details, and if a spot's open, you'll be one step closer to your own payout. If you're serious, don't wait, because these May spots disappear fast. So seriously, what are you waiting for? Click the link somewhere on the screen right now, and I'll see you right there.
When Doug Muchler went public with his story, he used the perfect conduit. He contacted Linda Moulton Howe. If you follow UFO news or you're a fan of Coast to Coast, you know who Linda is. In case you don't, she's an investigative journalist who's been covering UFOs, aliens, and conspiracies for a long time. She actually won an Emmy for one of her UFO documentaries.
Yo, Linda is the UFO OG.
She is. She's a legend in the field. She also does her homework. So when Doug emailed her, she got copies of his ID, addresses, and phone numbers. But most importantly, she wanted a copy of his DD-214.
Oh, well, obviously.
Oh, you know what a DD-214 is?
Of course.
Tell the people.
No.
DD formed two rank, education, MOS, job specialty, decorations, medals, everything. Doug Muchler produced this document. He was telling the truth. Once Linda reported on the pyramid, other people started coming forward with their own accounts of the Dark Pyramid. Marty Johnson and Lee Pearson's stories come from their sons who heard them firsthand. Linda heard from a retired naval captain stationed in Alaska. He noticed that aircraft communications always malfunctioned when flying over a certain area, east of Unalakleet and west of Mount Denali. Radar showed massive electromagnetic energy coming from the area. When the captain saw the report about the Chinese nuclear test, he thought the pyramid could be the problem. So he did the logical thing. He reported it to his superior officer.
Stupid.
Soon after, he was told to be quiet or face court-martial.
Told ya.
Lee Pearson's son, Bruce, believes his father's story. In fact, he thinks his father gave him enough information to find the location of the Dark Pyramid. So Bruce took that information, went to Alaska, hired a plane, and he might have found it. Bruce Pearson's father said the Dark Pyramid was east of Unalakleet and west of Mount Denali. So Bruce hired a pilot to take him to that location. If the base was out there, there would be signs of human activity. After almost 2 hours of flying, they came across a patch of land that looked squared off.
Go back over that spot again. Yeah. That's not natural. That is not natural.
It's not a perfect square, but there are right angles and straight lines. When they came around for another pass, they found the remains of an old road. a road that doesn't appear on any maps. And the most amazing discovery of all, they found an old airstrip. This also does not appear on any maps. So at some point in the past, somebody was using that road and airstrip for something. The nearest marked road is almost 100 miles away. This area is also pretty close to coordinates sent to Linda Moulton Howe by another retired Navy officer. This is the location. Using Google Earth, some people claim they can see an outline of a former compound or structure. I'm not sure I can make anything out, but I linked the coordinates below if you want to see for yourself. One man actually hiked to the coordinates to see with his own eyes. In May 2020, pick him up at the same location in 4 months.
4 months?
Yep, but Nathan was prepared. He had good gear, plenty of food, and a satellite communicator to let him radio his family. But after just a few weeks, he stopped checking in. A search team found his campsite. His gear was still there, but no Nathan. He kept a diary and found. Some speculate that he actually was found, that he discovered the location of the Dark Pyramid and was deleted. But something to keep in mind, the location of the Dark Pyramid is in the Alaska Triangle.
Ah! The underground base!
Yep. For 20 years, the CIA operated Project Stargate. This was essentially a psychic spy project. Stargate did a lot of different things, but its primary focus was remote viewing. Remote viewing is projecting consciousness to any place on Earth.
Project Stargate link below. But if you were psychic, you already...
Was Pat Price of the Alaska Triangle, Mount Hayes.
Mount motherfucking Hayes.
Okay, that's enough.
Mount motherfucking Hayes link below.
Pat discovered that the base was operated by humans and aliens working together. And I bring this up because Linda Moulton Howe found a witness who remote viewed the Dark Pyramid. She first saw a small building. She went in. Then she saw an elevator that went hundreds of feet down. She followed that. Then she found herself in what looked like a military facility. There was a lab. Then she saw a huge black sloped wall. She pulled away a bit. It was working. It was very busy. She scanned the area and found a network of hallways and tunnels. She saw offices, sleeping areas, a kitchen. Finally, she found herself with a group of people being taken on a tour by the facility's leader. She was stunned. The tour guide was not human. It was human-like, but definitely not human. Then she learned the true purpose of the Dark Pyramid. It is an energy device. It's a charging station for UFOs. There have been over 6,500 UFO sightings in the Alaska Triangle. It's one of the most active UFO hotspots in the world, and now we know why. The craft are using the pyramid for energy, and that's why the military never got it to work, and they never will. The aliens in charge don't work for us. We work for them. When Linda Moulton Howe exposed the Dark Pyramid in 2012, the story was a phenomenon, and it's easy to see why. We've got credible witnesses and evidence of human activity in the middle of the Alaskan wilderness. Thousands of people really do go missing in Alaska every year. There really are thousands of UFO sightings there. But is the Dark Pyramid real? Well, let's dissect it. Our first witness is Douglas Mutchler, a former military intelligence officer. Now, believers in the story say he's a very credible witness. He's provided documents that prove he is exactly who he says he is. That's true. But if you follow this channel, you know how I feel about whistleblowers from military intelligence. I don't trust them. I'm not saying every one of them or any one of them is lying, but some of them are. We know Richard Doty's shady history of spreading disinformation within the UFO community. Hal Puthoff, Christopher Mellon, Luis Elizondo, David Rush, and now Doug Mutchler, all whistleblowers, all connected to military intelligence. Now, I'm not saying Doug Mutchler is lying, but I do view his story skeptically. In his defense, the Chinese did detonate an underground nuke on May 22nd, 1992, but that's 5 or 6 months earlier than Doug claims. But he waited 20 years to come forward. Maybe some of his details are hazy. He said almost 40 other soldiers saw the news report about the underground pyramid. None of those soldiers have come forward. If you go to Linda's website, earthfiles.com, you could see the original emails Doug sent to her. The details change a little over time. At some point, he says China informed the UN about the underground test. That didn't happen. When the nuke went off in May, the world was taken by surprise, and the UN condemned the test. Still, he says this happened late November, early December 1992. There was no nuclear test done then. There just wasn't. So there'd be no news report of it. But what's interesting too, the earthquake was a 5.3, the highest ever recorded in the area. At least 500 people died. The UN did come in to provide aid and monitor any damage to the ancient sites. There was news coverage of that for weeks because people were worried about the Sphinx and the pyramids. Now, it's possible, it's even likely, that Doug is conflating a few different memories. And there's no shame in that. Human memory is notoriously bad. But what about Lee Pearson and his son Bruce? Well, we only have Bruce's word. Same with Marty Johnson. These were real people, no doubt, but they haven't given us any physical evidence, only their word. And what about remote viewers? Do you believe them? For the most part, I don't. But I do believe Pat Price saw something under Mount... Not only do I believe in Pat Price's ability, I believe he was killed because of it. Check out the episode on Project 8200. I get into all the details. The last and most important name in the story is Linda Moulton, who's on Coast to Coast with Art Bell. But she is a true believer. Yes, she does her homework, but she goes into a story believing it, and she focuses on investigating details to support the story. Lots of UFO and paranormal researchers do this. Almost all of them do. I approach these stories from the other side. I go in not believing, but I don't focus on debunking. I honestly try to find as much evidence as I can to defend a hard-to-believe story. Sometimes after researching, I'll change my mind. The moon theory was nonsense until I did an episode on it. Now I'm pretty sure the moon is weird. I thought crop circles were 100% man-made, but after researching, I can tell you this for sure. Almost 100% are man-made, but there are a few that can't be explained or debunked. They just can't. I don't know if there's a pyramid buried in Alaska, but if there is, I'm pretty sure it can generate energy, just like the Great Pyramid of Giza did when the Anunnaki built it 130,000 years ago. Prove me wrong. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. My name is AJ, that's Hecklefish.
Jump up, and get down.
This has been the Y-Files. If you had fun or learned anything, do him a favor, like, subscribe, comment, share. That stuff really helps him out. And like most topics we cover on this channel, today's was recommended by you. So if there's a story you'd like to see or learn more about, go to theyfiles.com/tips. Remember, the Y-Files is also a podcast. Twice a week, I post deep dives into the stories we cover here on the channel. I also post episodes that wouldn't be allowed on the channel. It's called the Y-Files Operation Podcast. It's available everywhere you get your podcasts. Now, if you need more Y-Files in your life, and not everybody does, but if you do, check out our Discord. We just hit 50,000 members. So there's someone on there 24/7, and they're into the same weird stuff that we are. It's a great community, it's a lot of fun, and it's free to join. Now, if you want to follow what's going on with the Y-Files, check out our production calendar. It's at theyfiles.com/cal. There we post our episode schedule, upcoming podcasts, live streams, all that stuff. Special thanks to our patrons who make the Y-Files happen. Every episode is dedicated to you. I don't deserve the support you give, but I'm truly grateful to have it. And if you'd like to support, consider becoming a member on Patreon. For as little as $3 a month, you get access to perks like videos early with no commercials, access to merch only available to members, plus you get 2 private live streams every week just for you. My camera's on, your camera's on. It's fun. Another great way to support the channel is grab something from the Wi-Fi store.
Grab a Hecklefish t-shirt or a fistable coffee mug with my face on it, because you'll be like fisting my face, I guess. Or you could just use it to drink a delicious beverage, or grab a hoodie with my face on it, or get one of these wheezy stuffed toys, talking animal fish, Hecklefish fish toys.
Those are the plugs, and that's enough for today. Until next time, be safe, be kind, know that you are appreciated.
I play Polybius in Area 51, a secret code inside the Bible said I was. I love my UFOs and paranormal fun, as well as music, so I'm singing like I should. But then another conspiracy theory becomes the truth, my friends, and it never ends. No, it never ends. I feel the crap cat and got stuck inside Mel's home with the people there. Man, I'm telling you, I'm dancing with the bitch. Hecklefish on Thursday night, 22, and the Wi-Fi's up. All summer beat all through the night. The Mothman sightings and the solar storm still come to a god, the secret city underground. Mysterious number stations, planet Serpo 2, Project Stargate, and what the Dark Watchers found. We're in a simulation, don't you worry though. The Black Knight satellite told me so. I can't believe I'm dancing with the bitch. Hecklefish on Thursday night, Wednesday J2, and the Wi-Fi's up and me all through the night. All I ever wanted was to just hear the truth, so the Wi-Fi's up and me all through the night. Hecklefish on Thursday night, Wednesday J2, and the Wi-Fi's up and me all through the night. Was to just hear the truth, so the Wi-Fi never beat all through the night. Cutie loves to dance. Cutie loves to dance on the dance floor because she is a camel, and camels love to dance when the feeling is right on waves in time. Cutie loves to
The speed and efficiency of the Fiverr freelancers has really been game-changing for us. It's helped take us from telling the story about Talent Pool as an HR firm to really positioning us as someone who helps the government solve complex social problems. Go to Fiverr.com and start scaling your business today.
Why you want to play detective? Because no one else is. Isn't the killer in custody? The suspect is in custody.
Are you gonna find who did it and get me out of here?
Yes, I am.
This episode of the Y-Files is brought to you by Audible. You step out and in warehouse keeping to the shadows, you can't be seen. Your parents conceived you the old-fashioned way, without genetic enhancements and without legal permission. They meant well, but your fate was sealed before you were born. You were 9 years old when the tracers found them. The last time you saw your parents, Dad was shoving you down a hatch, whispering for you to run. Before you had time to respond, he closed the hatch and covered it with the carpet. When you heard your mother's muffled screams, you took off down the tunnel. That was 17 years ago. You still cling to the hope that they're alive in a prison somewhere, but deep down, you know the truth. Your growling stomach snaps you out of the daydream. Imperfect or not, you still have to eat. And the factory district has plenty of off-the-books work. Sure, they pay you barely enough to survive, but they don't want to visit from the tracers any more than you do. It takes a long time to get to work. You have to stay far away from the patrols. Tracers can smell sweat and even hear a heartbeat half a mile away. Your heart murmur is a dead giveaway of imperfection. You hold back a sniffle as a tear rolls down your cheek and wonder how the world came to this. Then you remember something your mother said a long, long time ago. CRISPR. CRISPR changed everything.
Hello, Janice.
I thought you might want your drawings back, Doctor.
How very thoughtful. Or did they send you back for one last wheedle?
Wheedle?
It means to use flattery or coaxing in order to persuade someone to do it.
I know what it means. Nobody sent me. I came on my own.
People will say we're in love. Oh, you're wearing an exquisite fish sauce?
No, Doctor, I think that's your bowl.
So, Janice, with your good bag and cheap... Well, actually, your shoes are pretty nice. Quid pro quo. It's your turn to tell me. Why did you run away from that ranch? Janice? Janice?
Huh? Oh, I heard a strange sound. I went to look.
And what did you see, Janice?
The lambs. The lambs, they were screaming.
Tell me, have the lambs stopped screaming?
No, I actually hear them now. Oh, sorry, Doctor. I was listening to the Silence of the Lambs audiobook. With Audible, the thriller you're listening to comes to life so vividly through audio, it's almost as if it's happening in real life. They have a must-hear collection of the latest and greatest the genre has to offer. And with the Audible app, it makes it even easier to listen no matter where you are. Like in a jail cell with a cannibalistic psychiatrist.
Or being held captive at the bottom of a well.
Become an Audible member and get full access to a growing selection of included audiobooks, Audible originals, and podcasts. Audible is the destination for storytelling.
I can assure you the screams have never sounded more bone-chilling.
To start your Audible trial, visit audible.com/yfiles.
Goodbye, Janice.
What do you think, Precious? What's the best lotion for its skin?
How about chamomile? No, eucalyptus.
Mark Mark and Grace desperately wanted to have a child. In 2017, they attended a lecture in Shenzhen, China about genetic editing. The guest speaker was Professor Han Jiankui, a Chinese genetic researcher. After the talk, the couple explained their situation to Dr. Han Jiankui. Mark was HIV positive, Grace was not. Any child they had would carry the disease. Han Jiankui told the couple he could help them with a revolutionary new therapy he was developing. Through a gene editing technology called CRISPR, he could make their children immune to HIV. The therapy would also make any descendants of these children HIV resistant forever. Han Jiankui performed the procedure, and it was a success. Mark and Grace had 2 healthy twin baby girls. But Dr. Han Jiankui wasn't being completely honest with them. CRISPR was a revolutionary new technology, that was true. But it was so new, no one in the world would have let him use it on children. On November 25th, 2018, news of the successful treatment was revealed to the international scientific community. But Han Jiankui and his breakthrough success was not a cause for celebration. Scientists around the world were horrified. They called him China's Dr. Frankenstein. He lost his job, was fined about $500,000, and was sentenced to 3 years in prison by the Chinese government. He also made history. Human genes could now be altered. Unwanted genes can be removed, and more desirable genes can be inserted. The genetic genie was out of the bottle. There was no going back. CRISPR gene editing worked, and people started to wonder, what else can it do? For decades, scientists debated the cause of global warming. Trillions of dollars were invested in clean energy, yet the warming continued. Birth rates were already crashing when the planet was hit with pandemic after pandemic. Then a breakthrough was made. A team of researchers discovered how to use artificial intelligence to optimize the human genome. By feeding vast amounts of genetic data into advanced machine learning algorithms, AI could identify genetic combinations for optimal health. At first, the technology was used sparingly, reserved only for the most severe cases of genetic illness. Children with conditions like Huntington's, cystic fibrosis, and sickle cell disease could now live normal lives, and the disease wouldn't be passed on to their children. Soon, wealthy parents were using CRISPR to give their children an edge. AI could provide the exact DNA sequence to optimize any genetic trait. Their children were taller, more intelligent, more athletic, and more resistant to illness. But in just a few years, the technology improved, becoming less expensive and more widely available, so more parents used it. The results were astounding. The United Nations saw CRISPR as a way to solve many of the world's problems. If they could use AI to create a healthier, smarter, and more resilient population, maybe they could prevent disasters that threatened humanity in the past.
The voting has been completed. Please lock the machine.
On December 1st, the world celebrated.
The result of the vote is as follows.
The United Nations had passed the Genetic Optimization Act. Under the act, all parents were required to have their children's genes optimized by AI before birth. At first, there was resistance. Many saw the act as a violation of individual freedom. Religious groups argued this was playing God. But as the benefits of the technology became clear, the opposition faded. Parents who had once been skeptical now willingly had their children optimized to give them the best possible start in life. Over the next few years, genetic diseases were eradicated. Athletes shattered records that had stood for decades. The average human IQ skyrocketed. Scientific breakthroughs were happening on a daily basis. The human species, it seemed, was finally reaching its full potential. But it wasn't just humanity evolving. AI also evolved, and at a much faster rate. The algorithms became more advanced and started to favor genetic traits not just in health and intelligence, but also behavior. Obedience, conformity, and loyalty to the state. Children born under the Act were healthy and smart, yes, but they were also docile and easily controlled. Nations no longer went to war. They didn't see a point in it. AI helped create an abundance of food and energy, more than enough resources for everyone on Earth to live a comfortable life. But before long, AI, now called the Guardian, was put in charge of law enforcement and judgment. Who could be more impartial than a computer? People didn't see much danger in giving the Guardian AI this power. After all, crime was almost eliminated. Almost. There was still a lingering problem: the imperfects. Children born outside the system without genetic optimization. They were seen as a threat, a reminder of the chaos of the past. Laws passed restricting their rights and movements, forcing them to the margins of society. Finally, it was determined that all non-optimized individuals had to be eliminated. The imperfects could not be allowed to pollute the new, optimized gene pool. It was a matter of survival. The fate of the entire human race depended on killing every last imperfect on Earth. But imperfects were hard to find. They knew how to hide, disrupt the system, and worst of all, they continued to breed. So the Guardian developed a new algorithm to create children with a completely different combination of genetic traits. Obedience and loyalty were still part of the mix, but emotions were suppressed. These children learned to commit violence without empathy. They were given the traits, training, and tools to be ideal hunters. Thousands of these children quickly grew to be men who were assigned to a unit that handled tactical retrieval and criminal resistance. But people just called them tracers. DNA, or deoxyribonucleic acid, is a long string of molecules called nucleotides containing one of 4 nitrogenous base pairs: adenine with thymine, cytosine with guanine, or ATCG. You know this. CRISPR stands for Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromic Repeats. That's a mouthful, but it's not hard to understand. It refers to those ATCGs. In the late 1980s, scientists were studying bacteria DNA and noticed odd repeating sequences. Not only did these sequences repeat, but they were palindromes. You know, something that reads forward the same as backwards, like never odd or even, or Madam in Eden, I'm Adam.
A man, a plan, a canal, Panama.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Bondage?
Okay, that's enough. So let's say one section of the DNA strand was GAAG, palindrome. That's an oversimplification, but it's the gist. They found these repeats over and over in the bacterium's DNA. In between these repeating sections were sections of random DNA. Not palindromes, nothing special, random. But a few years later, scientists realized those random sequences in between the palindromes weren't random at all. Those sequences were the genetic codes of viruses that infected the bacterium at one point. CRISPR works like this. A virus attacks a bacterium by injecting its DNA. Usually bacteria can't survive this, but the ones that do take a snapshot of the virus DNA. That snapshot is then encoded into the bacterium's own DNA, like a memory. So if that virus attacks again, the bacterium checks the virus DNA against its own little DNA database. If it finds a match, it uses a protein called a Cas to cut the virus DNA at a specific location. Stop it. When the virus DNA is cut, it dies. Then in 2020, scientists Emmanuel Charpentier and Jennifer Doudna discovered CRISPR-Cas9. Cas9 is a protein that makes it much easier to target and edit individual genes selectively. This discovery won them the 2020 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, and the applications are endless. CRISPR-Cas9 could mean the end of genetic diseases. Victoria Gray suffered from sickle cell disease. This is a genetic disease that deforms red blood cells. Instead of being round, some are shaped like a crescent moon or a sickle. These deformed cells cause all kinds of problems. Victoria was constantly tired and in pain. She couldn't walk. Sometimes she couldn't feed herself because she couldn't lift a spoon. In 2019, she was the first person in the US to receive CRISPR-based treatment for sickle cell disease. Doctors extracted stem cells from her bone marrow, used CRISPR to correct the sickle cell mutation, then infused the modified cells back into her body. The goal was to give her body the ability to produce healthy red blood cells on its own. It worked. Victoria now lives a normal life. CRISPR research is now being directed at other diseases like cancer, diabetes, cystic fibrosis, MS, and more. But those studies use CRISPR to remove dangerous genes. CRISPR can also add genes, favorable genes. And if you can do that, people will. Wouldn't you want your child to be smarter, stronger, resistant to illness? Every parent would. But using technology to improve the genetic quality of the population? There is a word for that. Eugenics. Your shift at the factory ends and your real work begins. 6 months ago, you were approached by a woman in the Resistance who fought against the global AI system now called the Guardian. Of course, you'd heard of the Resistance but never considered joining. Every other day, the news ran a story celebrating the execution of its members. But this woman's passion convinced you that you had to do something to help.
We need to restore genetic diversity and end the AI's control over human reproduction. Its pursuit of perfection is creating a society of automatons. We're becoming obedient drones and losing all that makes us human. When was the last time you saw true art or heard music that stirred your soul? If we don't stop the Guardian soon, imperfects like us will be completely gone, hunted by tracers until nobody's left who remembers what being human really means.
Your training began the next day, and it was grueling. Your resistance cell has people with many different backgrounds, doctors, engineers, even former tracers. They taught you how to hack computer systems, evade patrols, and handle weapons. Here in New York was one of the Guardian's main hubs, 33 Thomas Street, the former AT&T building, now called Titan Point. Many years ago, the United States ran a vast and highly illegal surveillance program out of Titan Point. The program was exposed in documents released by someone named Edward Snowden. You would think that Americans would have been outraged to learn that their own government was spying on them. But the news came and went, and nothing happened. Congressmen, senior military officials, even the director of intelligence publicly lied about the program. Nothing happened.
Does the NSA collect any type of data at all on millions or hundreds of millions of Americans?
No, sir.
It was that kind of apathy that led to this mess. The resistance wouldn't make that mistake. Titan Point, aka 33 Thomas Street, is a fortress. It's impenetrable, but the resistance has someone on the inside. If everything goes to plan, you and 3 members of your cell will slip in through the underground garage. Your contact will take you to a workstation connected to the Guardian's network. Then all you have to do is plug in a portable disk. On the disk are variations of old computer viruses designed by the US, Israel, Iran, and the new Soviet Union. Viruses like Stuxnet and NitroZeus, designed by humans, perfected by AI. If they work, they could cripple the network and take down the entire power grid. Communications, transportation, banks, and all financial systems all would go down. For a time, anyway. But time is all you need.
Stop filming me! Stop filming me!
Have you ever wondered if this game is rigged?
Guess we'll find out.
You might be moving up too fast. Hey, big boys!
Are you crazy?
AI destroyed by AI. You smile at the poetic irony of it. You reach the heavy steel door and check your watch. 5:54 a.m. It's time. The moment your watch hits 5:55, you hear the heavy locking mechanisms disengage. The door opens and your contact waves you in. Genetics is a relatively new science. The earliest experiments were conducted by Gregor Mendel in the mid-19th century, studying inherited traits in pea plants. But genetically manipulating crops has been going on since the end of the Stone Age. It was as simple as keeping the good crops and throwing out the bad ones. Traditional genetically modified organism, or GMO methods, enable the creation of plants with favorable traits like increased yield and resistance to disease.